Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with a brand new Pokemon Draft League in Scarlet and Violet. My name is CBAD, coach of the Detroit Steelwings. We are here for the BBR Battle Royale 10th season, taking on Little Cup. Now, long time fans of the channels will know that I started out in the BBR Battle Royale back in Sword and Shield. Very excited to be back, and Little Cup is something I've never legitimately done. So there's first time for everything, and I'm looking forward to it. If you guys are excited, show some love on the like button down below. Definitely subscribe if you want more Draft League content. Check out the other coaches that are down below in the description of this video. Talk a little bit about the structure of the league itself. We'll go into the team itself as well. I'll do my best to have some timestamps down below, so if you're looking to review any sort of picks or skip backwards at any point, you know, a little bit more user-friendly on that angle. Pokemon Draft League, for those who don't know, this is a singles fan-made format where myself and a group of other coaches are going to have a specific point allotment, specific, value, currency, a total sum budget. And from that, we are going to go one by one and select a Pokemon that we would like. In this Draft League, there are a total of 9 picks that any Pokemon or that any coach can have. We cannot use more of our budget to get 10, 11, or 12. We have to use all of our point total within 9 Pokemon each. Because in Little Cup, there aren't that many Pokemon that's, quite frankly, are incredibly viable. We did have a total of 16 coaches drafting between 2 divisions. So you may see some battles where I'm facing off against Pokemon that I have on my team, but it just makes it a little bit fair overall to the coaches. So that way we're not thinking that Magikarp is really a budget steal at the end of the day. Some ground rules for this Draft League. When it comes to the battles itself, there will be no terrestrialization. We're just going to keep it as simple as it can be. 2 level 5 Mons against each other, 2 teams of, levels of 6 level 5 Mons, rather. And then we will also have an item clause put into effect. We can only use 2 of any item on the same team at any given week. So whereas in standard Draft League, if you run 2-3 sets of leftovers, if you run, choice items, you can run multiples of those. There's no real hindering, guidelines that say you can't do that. In this Draft League, we wanted to do that so that way, you weren't going up against a team of 6 Pokemon that were all holding an Eviolite, boosting everybody's defense and special defense by 1.5 times. So that's a little bit of the ground rules there. In the draft itself, I had the 3rd overall pick, and quite honestly, I asked for some thoughts towards the late end of the draft, but I tried to do this one to the best of my ability, just kind of solo, just thinking, what would make sense in this format? We're all level 5 Mons. What would really go well? And the first Pokemon I picked, I judged based solely off of the, the tiering. There were tiers available. The highest tier Mons were already gone, I believe. So at this point, I wanted to grab a Pokemon that I just felt would be, best overall, like a good backbone for the team. So the first Pokemon I drafted was Sun the Mudbray. Now, Mudbray has 3 abilities. Own Tempo, I cannot be confused. I'm immune to Intimidate. It has Stamina. My defense is raised by 1 stage after I'm damaged by a move. And then I have Inner Focus. I cannot flinch, and I'm immune to Intimidate. Best thing about this here is that this little guy, 100 base attack in Little Cup, is actually not too bad. If I take a look at, there are 3 Pokemon that have 100 base attack or higher. That is Cranidos, that is Trapinch, and that is Mudbray. Trapinch, very slow, base 10 speed, not too bulky, 45s in the defense and HP. Cranidos, very strong, very frail, and not the fastest thing in the world. If you're going to be that strong, maybe try to have a little bit more speed behind you, in my opinion. No real, its abilities aren't doing too much to save it either. Trapinch, you've got your Arena Trap, you've got Hyper Cutter, so you're immune to Intimidate. Sheer Force even to boost the secondary effects of the natures, but Mudbray can constantly boost itself up with the Stamina ability. Having those defense buffs can really help out the longevity of the Pokemon itself. So I went on ahead and grabbed that first overall. Mudbray, very reliable rocker. Unfortunately, compared to its evolution in Mudsdale, it does not get access to Body Press, so we're not going to be able to pull off any sort of Iron Defense, Body Press shenanigans. But really, like I said, Stamina is going to increase the overall longevity of this, especially we've got 70 base HP, so at the maximum investment, I can have 26 hit points. 26 hit points. That's an that's almost an Oranberry. Oranberry's 10. And Oranberry almost does half my. So just to put it into consideration here. As far as the moves itself go, I mean, Body Slam, Close Combat. It does have setup with Curse. Of course, it has Earthquake. We can go for Facade, Heavy Slam, High Horsepower, Iron Defense, Iron Head, Low Kick. We can set up our rocks. I think I said that. If I didn't, I did. There I go. Just very strong attack. Very strong, very good backbone for the team. And a good way, I feel, to start the draft when it comes to a Pokemon that I can rely on. You know, if there is a round 1 pick that I feel I could bring most weeks, it's a ground type, so it's an electric immunity, so the Magnemites, the Elekid's of the world are not just going to be able to Volt Switch and Thunder Punch all over me. I've got that in check. Having a very, very strong physical attacker on the way back, I would like a very, very strong special attacker on the way back, and that is why I grabbed Violet the Glimmet. Glimmet is a rock and poison type, so we do have a 4 times weak to ground type Pokemon. We also do have a psychic weakness. We also have 2 water weaknesses right now, which is not going to be too good for us, but we'll certainly patch that up later on in the draft. Glimmet has 2 abilities, one of which I think is very, very useful. The other one I think could be a very niche scenario in Draft League. The niche scenario is Corrosion. I can poison or badly poison a Pokemon regardless of typing. So other poison types, steel types, I can go for a Toxic. I can go for, you know, a Poison Gas if I've got it. And I can poison those with my moves. The other ability that I have is Toxic Debris. When I am hit by a physical attack, Toxic Spikes are set on the opposing side. So I can get free Toxic Debris just by taking a hit, free Toxic Spikes just by taking a hit, which I think is great. We also do have access to Spikes, we have access to Stealth Rocks, and we have access to Toxic Spikes if we want to manually set them as well. Why did I go with Glimmet? So, other than the usefulness and the ability, Ground and Poison type is great in case my opponent does want to go for any sort of Toxic Spikes here. But another thing is that it has 105 base special attack. Again, very, very strong Pokemon. If I look at Pokemon that have 105 base special attack or higher, you have Glimmet at the highest, and then you have Solosis next at 105. You've got 2 Pokemon all in that have that high of a special attack stat. Solosis, not the bulkiest, not the fastest. Frankly, Glimmet isn't either, but it does have higher HP defense and special defense than Solosis, while also being faster. So, just something to take home about. As far as coverage moves go, things like Dazzling Gleam, we do have access to Explosion, although our attack stat is 35, so could be good. 250 base power move is still something at the end of the day. We do have access to screens. We have access to set up through a move called Meteor Beam if we want to run Power Herb. We have access to Power Gem. We can set up with Rock Polish. We've got Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave. We do have Toxic. We've got Acid Spray to lower the special defense. We've got Mud Shot as far as a ground move goes. I mean, very, very solid. You know, Venoshock if we want to go that route as far as the poison type hex move essentially. If I can get them poisoned, Venoshock is now doing double damage. Now it's 130 base power poison move. So very, very strong Pokemon, I feel like. Can be very, very useful. It's got some nice resistances with the type coverage here. But as I had mentioned, we do have a very glaring water weakness right now. Somewhat of a grass weakness. We're only 2 in. We can patch those things up, but really a very strong water weakness right now. We don't want to take a Water Gun. We don't want to take a Bubble Beam. We don't want to take any of that. Very excited to grab this Pokemon. This Pokemon is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm hoping that it will put in a tremendous amount of work this season. I grabbed Blue the Squirtle. Squirtle, of course, 2 abilities. Torrent, when I am a third or less max HP, my water moves get boosted by 1.5 times. Then I also have Rain Dish. If Rain Dish is active, or Rain Dance is active, or the rain is active, I do heal 1/16 of my max HP per turn. More than likely bringing something like Torrent. From a stat spread, nothing too crazy. You know, I talked about how Mudbray has base 100 attack. I talked about how Glimmet has 105 base special attack. Squirtle's not coming to the table with any base 100s. You know, 44 HP, 48 in attack, 65 in defense, 50 special attack, 64 in special defense, 43 in speed. Right? Like, all of those stats are, like, very, like, average, quite honestly, when it comes to Little Cup. In my opinion, never having done Little Cup, just in my brief review of before the draft, I was like, okay, nothing's really too crazy about this mon. What does Squirtle do for us? So I did mention, obviously, Squirtle is a water type. I have a water weakness. We understand type resistances. So good. That's patched up for me as well. Squirtle also provides me a very, very solid Rapid Spinner. Squirtle is a good Eviolite user. I didn't mention that with Mudbray. Mudbray can be a very good Eviolite abuser. Squirtle can also be that with 65 defense and 64 special defense, boosting those up a little bit. Everybody loves a good bulky water type at the end of the day. We have access to Momentum and Flip Turn. We've got Priority and Fake Out. We've got a Haze user. We can set up with Shell Smash if need be. We've got access to Yawn. I mean, I'm frankly surprised at how much the Squirtle, Wartortle, Blastoise line has in the forms of support moves overall. But as far as the overall utility, again, very hard-hitting water-type Pokemon with things like Hydro Pump, with things like Surf, Ice Beam, you name it. Being able to keep up that momentum with Flip Turns and such. Being able to Shell Smash, being able to Rapid Spin, I think it provides us a lot of utility. It can be defensive one week, it can be offensive the next. Very, very excited about this pick. Grass weakness. I have a grass weakness now. I believe everybody in the comments, if you haven't already left a like, I don't know what you're doing. But if you're in the comments, you're already talking about the grass weakness. Fear not. I drafted a Pokemon. I've never drafted this Pokemon or its evolution form ever. Ever. I'm always like kind of about it. but this Pokemon helped out with the grass weakness, the weakness that this Pokemon brings to the table. I have resistances for, so I felt pretty comfortable bringing it. I went on ahead and drafted Diamond the Snover. Now, Snover has 2 abilities. The first one is soundproof. I'm immune to sound-based moves, so things like Parting Shot, Hyper Voice, Growl, things along those lines. I'm immune to those sound moves, but I also have Snow Warning. On switch in, I summon the Snow, which is cool because after Snow was reworked from Hail to Snow in the later generations, it provides Ice types a defense buff, a 1.5 times defense buff in the Snow. So although I do have 50 base defense, the Snow is going to boost that by 1.5 times, which is fantastic. It also means that wonderful, wonderful move that I get access to in Blizzard is always going to be 100% accurate. Now, Snover, very similar to Squirtle, does not have remarkable stats. Again, Mudbray limit, I called out the very, very high stat. Snover, base 60 HP, base 62 attack and special attack, base 50 defense, 60 special defense, 40 speed. Not the fastest, not the hardest hitting, but being able to spam Blizzard isn't always a bad thing. Being able to spam those very, very, very strong high power moves, never a bad thing. The defense buff, even though our defense is lower than our special defense, the Snow is going to boost our defense if we so need to bring that, which means that stat I'm no longer necessarily concerned about. And having the same stat in both attack and special attack means we can run things one week like Blizzard and Giga Drain, and the next week we can run things like Wood Hammer, Ice Shard, Icicle Spear, things along those lines. So very excited for Snover. Definitely thinks it helps to patch out the team. I wasn't too quite sure where to go with this next one because I've got some backbone, I've got some offense, I've got some shenanigans that I can pull on here, and I truly did not know where to go. And I felt in my mind that in Little Cup, like the longer I know little games can be fast and hard, but I feel like if it does come down to a long game, the better I can support myself. I think we'll be good in the long run. We're still going to have our hard hitters. We're still going to have, I talked about, Blizzards from Snover. I talked about Hydro Pump, Shell Smashes from Squirtle. We're still going to have these breakers, no matter what tier that you're in. And I'd like something to help out with that. And so next up, I ended up grabbing Shield the Impidimp. Now, Impidimp famously has the Prankster ability, so my status moves have their priority raised by 1. However, I do not affect Dark-type Pokemon because of that. Dark-type are immune to Prankster moves. I have Frisk, which can identify held items. I also have Pickpocket. If I have no item and I'm hit by a contact move, I steal the item back. Impidimp, first right out the gate, just by a typing-wise, Dark and Fairy type. I am immune to Psychic moves, which I'm currently weak to with Limit. And I am weak to Dragon moves just because I don't have a resistance to it yet. So now I have an immunity to both Psychic and Dragon, which is great. I do now have access to a Prankster user, which has access to both forms of screens, Light Screen and Reflect. I've got Prankster Parting Shot. I've got, let's take a look at some of the, this is very, very reminiscent of Grimmsnarl at the end of the day, right? If you're familiar with Grimmsnarl in the big draft league, you're going to be very familiar with Impidimp in the little draft league. Dual Screens, Nasty Plot, Parting Shot, Prankster Taunt, Thunderwave, Trick, Fake Tears, Misty Terrain, Scary Face. I mean, just a lot of good stuff at the end of the day. Something with Impidimp is that its special attack is higher than its physical attack, which is not something that you see when, people are running Grimmsnarl in the big league. So it'll be interesting to run this with something like Dazzling Gleam, with something like Dark Pulse if needed, being able to have those offensive types. But at the end of the day, Prankster Screen's always going to be a good thing. What I didn't mention on Snover is that we don't actually have Aurora Veil on Snover. We don't get Aurora Veil until we become an Abomasnow. So as much as I would love to have Aurora Veil support, I don't, unfortunately. But Impidimp does have access to the Prankster Screens. I can run both. I can run neither. I can run some fun Parting Shot shenanigans. So like I said, little support mon. I don't see it being the premier sweeper. I don't see it being like a bulk up attacker that's going to be able to just do some significant damage on the way back. But that's going to be my thoughts on Impidimp here. Now, as far as it goes, a little bit more defensive backbone. I've got a lot of offenses. I've got some Pokemon that can run kind of either way. I'd like a Pokemon that can just be a little bit more of a wall. I talked about how Mudbray was really good at that. I'd like to kind of continue that trend as best as I can, and I do so with Platinum the Bronzor. Bronzor has 3 abilities, and I think genuinely all 3 of these abilities can come into play depending on the matchup. First up, most commonly known, we have Levitate. I have the ground immunity. Next up, I have Heat Proof. I do take half damage from fire moves. I also take half to burn damage, so as opposed to the 6%, I take 3%, 12%, 6%, something like that. I take half from burn damage. I also have Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal, again, you want your Bronzong for Levitate. You want your Bronzong for your Heat Proofs. Heavy Metal and Little Cup, not a lot of these Pokemon are really big, so if I can double my weight and go for some Heavy Slams, it might not be too bad. How much does Bronzor weigh? Let's find how much does Bronzor weigh. 133 pounds. So at Heavy Metal, I'm 266 pounds. Let's just take a look at how much does Snover weigh. Snover, 111 pounds. So a big tree. I weigh more than that. I mean, Bronzor being probably, how much does Mudbray? Who weighs more? Who weighs more? Mudbray or who weighs more? Mudbray or Bronzor? Bronzor or Mudbray? Lock it in right now. Type it in the comments. Mudbray weighs more, 243 pounds. So another good Pokemon that I could go for a Heavy Slam here. But stab Heavy Slams are always nice. I'm always a big fan of just being able to take advantage of, like, if you don't have a good steel resistance, like just Heavy Slam, just being able to chunk away Mons is going to be really, really nice. Bronzor, not too offensive, 24 attack, 24 special attack. Where I feel it shines, it does have access to, it does have the very high defense and special defense stats, 86 in both defense and special defense. Pairing that with an Eviolite in this type of a competitive environment could go really nicely. We're very slow, 23 base speed, so we're not going to be too fast. We've got another Stealth Rocker here. We are no shy support of hazards, thankfully. I always like having hazard diversity. I don't want one dedicated rocker. Being able to toss that roll around if needed is going to be very, very great. Of course, 24 attack and special attack. We don't necessarily need to run one way or another, like a Bold or an Impish set or what have you. You know, we can run things like Set Up with Calm Mind. We can run Expanding Force. We can run Extrasensory. We can also run Gyro Ball. We can also run Iron Head, Power Gem. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for this. Another move that it does give us access to now is Trick Room for speed control. So very looking forward to this. On the flip side of this coin now, I have a very, very slow Pokemon. I have a very slow Pokemon base 23 speed. Let's flip it on its head. I don't quite have the speed control that I want. I don't have the fastest Pokemon in the world right now. I'm also missing out an electric type. So the next Pokemon I drafted was Red the Voltorb. Voltorb has 3 abilities. Again, I think it's going to be situational based on the matchup. 2 seem a little bit better than me right out the gate, but we'll see where the cards may fall. We have Soundproof. We are immune to sound-based moves. Again, Hyper Voice, Growl, Parting Shot, things along those lines. Static, 30% chance of Pokemon making contact with this Pokemon will be paralyzed, which is great. A little bit of speed control, never hurt anybody. And then Aftermath, if we are KO'd by a contact move, that move's user loses a quarter of its max HP, which is Chef's Kiss. As far as stats go, 55 special attack, nothing crazy. We talked about how, Squirtle had 50 base special attack, and I think Squirtle can really do something with that special attack stat. So something like Voltorb with 55 special attack's not going to be too bad, but where I feel it really shines is 100 base speed. There's not too many Pokemon. Voltorb, actually looking at this, Voltorb is the fastest Pokemon in Little Cup. I just double-checked this. The next fastest are going to be Elekid, Wiglet, and Alolan Diglett at 95, 95, and 90, respectively. You got your Meowths at 90, so we do have the fastest Pokemon, similar to Electrode in Standard Draft League, barring your Regieleki. Voltorb is going to be the fastest Pokemon available on the pool. They have to Scarf to outspeed us. Voltorb and Electrode really hand in hand, really just, I feel like they do what they do, and that's going to be the same situation here in Little Cup. We do have access to some very fast screens if we don't want to we do have just light screen. We don't have reflex. We have a very fast light screen. Thunderbolt, Thunderwave, Volt Switch. We've got access to a very fast Taunt as well. We do have Discharge. We've got Explosion. We've got, again, Terra Blast, base 80, normal type move if we do want to run that. Again, there is no terrestrialization in this league, so it will be just the standard normal type move, which is totally fine. Provides us just a little bit of extra coverage to hit the ground type on switching if we want to make that guess, but all in, not doing too much. It doesn't do much more than Electrode is, especially without the Terra, but it's fast. If there is not an electric immunity on the other side of the field, if we can wear down the immunity and the resistance, Voltorb has a lot of late game potential. Now we're going to flip it back on its head. We went from 23 to 100. We're going to go all the way back down to 5 base speed because that Trick Room Mushroom sounded really good. But this Pokemon was on the field, and looking at it, I really was like, I don't hate this. I don't hate this idea. Like, in my mind, it makes sense, right? We're playing with little tiny baby Pokemon. What Pokemon can I bring that continues? If you're new to Draft League, I always enjoy my immunities. I always think it's important to have your immunities where you can. I wanted a Pokemon that could help me out with that, and again, still having like something really good to boast about. And this Pokemon, while having a 5 base speed, also boasts a 135 base HP. This is the highest attack or HP stat that you can get in Little Cup, and the lowest speed stat that you can get in Little Cup. So again, I like my things that stand out. I think they could be good. We did end up picking up Pearl the Munchlax. Munchlax has 3 abilities, one of which is one of which is not going to be it, but 2 of them could be situational depending on the matchup. Thick Fat, Fire and Ice type moves are dealt with a half to offensive stat, so we can use that to our advantage a little bit defensively. We also have Gluttony, where if I do eat the quarter max HP berries, I pop a Guave. You got me. I'm trying to think of a third one. Can't find it. Things like that. where we would normally eat them at a quarter max or less. We actually eat them at the halfway mark, similar to a citrus berry. So having a being in a draft league where we can only bring 2 of one item at any time, if I've already got 2 of my citrus berries assigned out for whatever reason, a Papa Berry comes into mind right there. We're able to use that. As far as the moves that it has access to, very, very, very similar to Snorlax. Body Slam, Earthquake, Counter, Crunch, Facade, Gunk Shot, Hyper Beam, Hyper Voice, Ice Punch, Ice Beam, Rock Slide, Seed Bomb, Surf, Thunder Punch, Thunderbolt, Trailblaze, Zen Headbutt. Just a fun mon. Very, very thick. 85 attack. We already talked about the HP. 135. 85 attack, 40 defense, 40 special attack, 85 special defense, 5 in speed. Can be very, very good for us to be a little bit of a defensive backbone. 85 base attack is still pretty solid. If we were to take a look at a scale of the attacks here, I mean, 85. So the tiering in Little Cup, we've got Cranidos at 125, Mudbray at 100. Axew hits 87, and the next highest attack stat you can get in Little Cup is 85. So we've got a top 4 attacker here as far as the attack stat itself goes. So very excited for this. Last Pokemon, I'm trying to kind of just patch up some weaknesses here. I'd like a little bit more utility on the team. I think that the Pokemon that I grabbed here, we have, we clear its weaknesses well, and I think the defensive typing, the utility that it gives us is going to be beneficial. It also does have one of its stats exceeding 100 or greater, which is fantastic. In Little Cup, like I said, I'd really like those high stats just to be able to take advantage of that on the matchup. I went on ahead and grabbed Green the Tentacool as my last Pokemon. Now, I have used Tentacruel before. Tentacool is going to be no different here. It's got 3 abilities. Clear Body, and my stat stages cannot be lowered by other Pokemon. So something like Intimidate, something like Sticky Webs. Clear Body is going to prevent that from happening, which is great. Liquid Ooze, if they are going to drain HP from me, they're actually going to take damage from that. So Giga Drain, Leech Seed, Drain Punch, Draining Kiss. Those types of moves are actually going to be detrimental to use into my team. And then Rain Dish, if the rain is active, I gain a 16th back of my overall HP at the end of the turn. 40 HP, 40 attack, 35 defense, 50 special attack. Right, like it's there. 100 special defense. Now we're talking. 70 speed. Not too bad. Not too bad at the end of the day. We've got set up through means of acid armor. We do have access to Blizzard if we want to run a fun snow match with Snover and run Blizzard on Tentacool. Chilling Water, Dazzling Gleam. We've got another Flip Turner, which is great. Giga Drain. We've got another Haze user. We've got Hex, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Knockoff. I actually think this might be my first knockoff user. No, Squirtle has to get it, right? Squirtle doesn't get it. Oh, no. Well, that's something I don't think I knew about until right now as of recording this. Munchlax doesn't even get it, does it? Nope. Yep. So Tentacool is my premier knockoff user. We may want to patch that in free agency because removing those Eviolites are going to be beneficial. But I think this does a few things for us. I think this provides us a little bit more of a defensive water type. Having a poison type, we're now resisting fairy. We're resisting fighting. We are opening ourselves up to a ground weakness. We are now neutral to grass instead of weak to grass. So pick and choose, pick and choose. I think it and Squirtle do 2 separate things while having some very common similarities, obviously, with Rapid Spin, with Flip Turn. You know, we do get a little bit of different coverage opportunity there. Squirtle can set up. Squirtle has access to a few moves that Tentacool doesn't, vice versa. So very, very excited with this team. I'm looking forward to it. Again, this is my first dive into Little Cup, and as I've told everybody, I will certainly try my best to build and prepare and have fun each week. But at the end of the day, we're pitting level 5 Pokemon up against each other. So it just have a good laugh when I talk about the team builders. Have a good laugh at the battles that we're running Choice Band Mudbray up against something. I mean, it's just going to be a good time. And I hope you guys are around for that. If so, if you are, subscribe to the channel for more competitive Pokemon content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. Tomorrow, we are going up against Numb Nexus in our Week 1 battle. Very looking forward to it. Nexus is my Draft League rival. We have a good time whenever we throw down. I'm very excited. I hope you guys are too. Be great, do great, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for game day. Later.